Hey everyone, welcome back to the ComicCom podcast. We have a special edition show. We are talking The Eternals, Marvel's latest movie for the cinematic universe. This is going to be a completely spoiler review, so if you have not seen Eternals, feel free to come back to this at another time. If you have seen it and you want to know myself, Justin, aka Nemesis Prime Thoughts, and my cohort on this one, Zach, what's going on?
What's up, everybody? Yeah, man, I'm pretty excited to talk about this. It's kind of like the big question mark, so to speak, in terms of like the first slate of new Marvel movies. Shang-Chi is a pretty well-known character, maybe not high profile necessarily, but the Eternals was like a big question mark, very a la Guardians when Guardians came out. Like we talked about this a lot before, what to expect from Eternals, and not many people knew. So
yeah. Yep. So, I guess I'll go first. So let me just give a background and history. I know of the Eternals in the Marvel universe. I've never read any of the series. I never read Jack Kirby's stuff, as good or bad as it is. I really don't even know. And then, of course, there's multiple volumes throughout Marvel Comics. I just never got into it. To me, they weren't characters that I guess I cared about. I really wasn't into a lot of the space world of Marvel. So, my rendition, my interpretation of the Eternals is basically brand new. And, we're both, Zach and I, are going to go into each of our kind of what we thought about the movie, and then we're going to kind of, break it down into a more deeper spoiler-ish type of episode. So for me, it was a long movie. I thought it was good, but it definitely was long. At points, there definitely was some slow parts, but it definitely felt like I was watching Guardians for the first time because I knew nothing about these characters.
right.
Of course, they throw in the Marvel funny at times, so that's of course where it needs to be. But at the same point, it also felt very dark at points, which was really nice. And we'll get into that
Yeah.
as we get into. So I don't think to me, it felt like it didn't really have any connection to the current MCU, which is nice. The Eternals they mention, of course, Thanos and the Avengers, which we've seen in the trailers and clips if you've seen commercials. But nothing really other than that. I felt like you could watch this movie and it's a complete standalone film. Like
Right.
you definitely didn't need to be completely caught up with all the Marvel stuff. And even if you are or aren't, it's just like the little things when they mention Thanos and mention the Avengers, like I guess you know who they are in the world of Marvel, but you don't need to know at what point or where they are. So, like I said, I knew none of these characters. When I went to go see it, it was completely just open for me. But it's definitely, to me, it was like a great space odyssey type of film here on Earth. So that's kind of my quick review about it. What about you, Zach?
Yeah, you know what? I'm actually kind of just caveat here to everyone. I have no idea what Justin's opinion of this movie is. We both saw it Thursday night and we haven't talked about it. Not like we were really avoiding it. It just never really came up. So I honestly kind of thought we were going to go into this being a little like differing opinions. But as of now, like you're kind of right on point with what I thought too. I have read a little bit of Eternals. I read the Neil Gaiman run. I think it was volume 3 back in the early 2000s or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was okay. I mean, I wasn't like super into it. I've been reading the recent Kieran Gillen run as well. I mean, he's one of my favorite writers, but I'm going to be honest with you, like it's kind of been a slog to get through. Like maybe I'll go back and try it again. I've kind of just been collecting them and not reading them the past recent issues. But yeah, I wasn't super into the Eternals. I knew who the main characters were. I knew some kind of background, very brief background about who they were and everything. But I'm totally with you. Like, I agree. I actually told my wife who saw it with me, I was like, and I liked how it's so, obviously it's part of the MCU and everyone wants everything to be connected. You know what I mean? But I do think there are certain times that it's important to have these standalone movies that don't necessarily have to, be strongly related and touch on the other movies. They got to stand on their own. And like you said, dude, it totally could have been just a standalone movie. Like the various references to Thanos, which maybe there was like 3 or 4. And then like the Avengers really just calling out like, kind of like you said, the Marvel funny type stuff. But other than that, I mean, it was all pretty much standalone, I really enjoyed it. I didn't really feel the vibe of when you, and I didn't think about this. You said it when you said like Space Odyssey. Of course, there's a lot of like space related, but
Mhm.
to me, it was more of like a history movie. Like I
Yeah.
loved the flashbacks. I loved seeing them throughout history and interacting with like pivotal moments in history and stuff like that. And I was thinking about it after the movie was over, if they, if it does well enough and they do sequels and more. Um, Obviously, some characters, perished in this movie, but you can see them again because now we can go back and we can see like where they were during World War II and stuff like that. Like in
Mhm.
future movies, you can always touch back on the past, which I think is really cool. Like it leaves open so many narratives to be told with these characters.
Mhm.
So I, before we get into the nitty gritty, I enjoyed it. I very much enjoyed it. I really, really liked it. It was long and
Mhm.
it was somber, kind of like you said. I don't know if I thought dark, but definitely like somber. But I get what you mean. And I liked it. I really was like invested in it. So
Yeah. Well, again, we're spoiling it. So, of course, dark, I mean the big twist. There was
right,
and that was and I didn't know about this at all. And that I think that's what made the movie better to watch, because you're thinking, watching the trailers, you're like, all right, the Eternals are here. There's something with this emergence. You see that they're fighting the deviants. About the deviants coming back, and you thinking that's pretty much what the whole movie's going to be, right?
right,
Like they were a team. They left. They're getting back together because the deviants come back, and then there's probably some world-ending thing that they have to save. The fact that it turns at the pivotal moment, and you have, I guess the leader then, right? I guess you'd call it Icarus, like he's kind of like the Superman of the
right.
team. For him to kind of change his views, or stay true to being a soldier, and the job of what the Celestials are intending, I thought that was crazy. It was
Yeah.
definitely very interesting to watch.
And I wasn't sure I was going to like his character because I mean, I'm not like a Superman character or like a
Mhm.
Superman type guy, but I loved, dude, honestly, every single character I felt like got, maybe not all of them got as much time as they need. I would have liked to seen a little bit more with Makari. But I
Yep.
did feel like they touched on a lot of the characters and you got a good grasp of every single character.
Mhm.
And like what drove them and kind of like their motives and whatnot. And even Icarus, you know, throughout the whole story, he's like you said, like initially he's kind of the good guy. And then he really takes the mission as, like you said, like the soldier. But then even at the end, like he realized what he did was wrong. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And like he had a ton of like guilt about it and flying away into the sun, whether we see him again or not, who knows. But I
Mhm.
loved his character arc. I liked how he was very for for them being like quote unquote, I know I've read it in articles, like robots, created by the celestials and whatnot.
Mhm.
They very much like were human to me. I mean, like their emotions and their interactions and their feelings, like love and angst and just kind of like the memory issues that you saw with like Thena and stuff like that. Like
Mhm.
it very much was human emotions all over the place. So I loved the character development. That was great.
Yeah. Like you said, I think as far as characters that deserved a little, yeah, Makari was cool.
Right.
Played by Lauren Rildoff. She's an actress who was born to deaf parents. So, she portrays this character that, can't speak and uses sign language to communicate with everyone. And, it wasn't, I felt like it wasn't like a forced thing. Like it was something that you wanted to learn more about her. Uh, my favorite character, and I just learned this really before we went live, was I thought Sprite was an awesome character.
Sprite
You
was
know,
cool. She's always been kind of annoying in the comics, in my opinion. She's like
yes, like
usually the comic relief type character.
okay. And for me, she portrays herself. I get how she's a child. She's a
Hmm.
child, in the movie, and I guess if she's like that in the comics, but of course she acts more like an adult because she's been around for
Right.
7,000 years, more than 7,000 years, 7,000 years on Earth. But I didn't realize that even the actress is only like 15, 16 years old. Like
Oh,
it's
really?
not like
Yeah.
she was born in 2005. So, that puts her again, yeah, like 15, 16 years old. Like to play an adult type of character, but still be a child. Like, I didn't realize that. Like, I'm like, damn, this girl's only 15, 16, and she really like she was emotional. Like, um, Kingo said it. She's like the Tinkerbell. Like, she's in love with
Right.
Icarus, and but she's very mature because she's been around all this time. So she has all those feelings and emotions that a normal adult would have, despite her looks.
Yeah, it was, and it was also very reminiscent of like Interview with the Vampire,
Yes.
with the Kirsten Dunst's character Claudia, where she can't grow up. You know what I mean? Like she's stuck in this body. She can't grow up. She can't love. She can't get married and whatnot. So it's sad. It's very touching. Like the ending for Sprite, I thought was cool. It was really cool how they turned her back into a human. I thought it was awesome. I really loved every single character. Like there wasn't a character that I was annoyed with or that I didn't like. I thought Kingo was great. I thought he was hilarious, crushed it. I even liked at the end when he was, I imagine a lot of people probably would be upset, like, oh man, why wasn't he in the final battle? You know what? But his reaction, I feel like, is the most truest reaction of like what people really should be like in real life and how they should act. So he's like, hey, look, I agree with Icarus. Like, this is our mission, but I don't disagree enough that I'm going to fight you about it. Like that I'm going to hurt my family over. He's like, we can disagree, but we don't have to fight about it. You know what I mean? Like he's like, I'm just going to remove myself from this situation. Like I thought that was very strong, like I really liked that. I loved Gilgamesh's character of being like kind of the loyal protector of Athena, companion. Like that was awesome. Who else, man?
Well, Athena in general, and then
Yeah,
let's just
Athena.
we'll go through the characters. So yeah, like Gilgamesh being the protector, Athena, I think was awesome.
Yeah.
Angelina Jolie did a great job. She was cool. I love characters that have either the ability to create weapons, kind of like Hela
Right.
in Ragnarok, or just kind of swords, spears, stuff like that. I think that's just such a cool ability, and the fact that it switches constantly, like the way she's fighting, and then a sword or staff becomes a knife, and then a shield, and
Yeah.
like a blade. Like there's different things, and her story arc in this 2.5 hour movie was interesting. I think she was great. Like you said, I think Droog could have
Druid, yeah.
Droog, yeah, he could have been a little bit more in the movie, but I get like he's the outcast, and like that was his decision to leave and be kind of like like a cult, which is interesting. Kingo, I didn't know if I was gonna like him, but that's where the comedy comes in. And I guess instead of Sprite being it, like you said in the comics, like we kind of went to Kingo. His powers are really cool. And then of course there's Ajax. Not much to talk about Ajax.
Yeah, we didn't get a
Because
lot.
yeah. And but then you got Festos. I think he's awesome.
Yeah, so let's talk about Fastos for a bit. So, there was a lot of hate online, right? Like a lot of trolls went out and like did the whole Rotten Tomatoes thing, and they said that there was very much like an LGBTQ agenda with this movie. And honestly, like if you thought that, I don't understand what you really want in life, because I thought this was like, look, I'm very much I'm open to it all, right? I don't like in any situation stuff to be like slammed down my throat. Like I don't like that. And I thought this was the perfect representation of, a gay character in the Marvel universe, the MCU. Like it wasn't like jammed down your throat. It wasn't like it felt like no agenda. It was just like, hey, guess what? Like this guy's my husband, and they didn't really speak on that. You know what I mean? It was just like it was like a normal thing, which it should be to everyone in 2021. You know what I mean? Like moving on to 2022. Like stop being shocked that there's gay men and gay women in the world. You know what I mean? Like it happens. They exist. Like move on, bro. It's not even like a big topic. Like I thought that was handled perfectly. Like I didn't think that was over the top. There was no agenda. And honestly, if there's like trolls out there who thought it was pushed that way, like you're never going to be happy. I don't know what would like, you obviously probably are homophobic at this point. You need to probably look into that. So,
and like you said, there's no, it's not like when you saw him, when they first appeared on Earth, or any of the times in the whatever the flashbacks, there's never him constantly like looking at a man or acting strange. Like
Right.
his story arc is crazy because him
Yeah.
basically giving them the technology for the atom bomb and Hiroshima, and him explaining that he completely separated himself from human beings. And I think Ajax is the one that says it, or maybe Cersei says it, that he just didn't want to be around anybody. And then, but for him to build himself back up as a character and then have the ability to care for a human being, regardless of gender,
Right.
is, like you said, it's the people out there that are trolling this. It's stupid. Like, whatever, man, woman, race, doesn't matter. For him to adopt a son and everything, and for him to care about this world again is different than anything else that's going on. Like
Yeah.
you and I have watched Watchmen. The whole storyline of like Dr. Manhattan. Like
Right.
he was always separating himself from the humans because he didn't know how to feel anymore to be a human being. But
Mhm.
for Festus, he he basically redeemed himself. He
He
found
jumped
love.
back in, man. He
Yeah.
went right into the deep end of the pool. Like he's like, I'm experiencing the human life. Like that scene where he's like, I now use my hands to fix my son's bike. That's enough for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And like honestly, his power. So it gives me hope too for powers like that. So when you have characters who are like, oh, the weapons builder or whatever,
Mhm.
something like that, it's always very hard visually to picture. You know what I mean? Like it's like, oh God, how are they going to do that? And it's probably pretty tough as like a special effects person to think about how am I, because obviously in a visual medium, you've got to show that, right? And
Mhm.
I thought it was awesome the way they did his stuff. It gives me like super big hopes for, X-Men characters like Forge, like characters who are just so great, like the guys who build stuff. Like, and I loved how at the end, that last fight scene, he had all these different weapons. Like you never saw him fight until that end, you
Yeah.
know. But
He's not
dude, I
someone
thought
who's
that was
like
great.
he's not a melee type of character. Like
Right.
he's someone who could stand back and uses his abilities. Doesn't need to get in close. I mean, unless he needed to. But yeah, that fight between him and Icarus.
Yeah, it was
I don't
cool.
I don't think he was the one that you would have thought would have went head to head with him. Like you would have thought
Right.
maybe Kingo, or of course, unfortunately, Gilgamesh.
Mhm.
But
Yeah. And then, so last but not least, we have Cersei. So, for people who are the casual Eternals fans out there, most people know Cersei. She's probably the most well-known Eternal because she had a stint of time with the Avengers. She's steeped in, character arcs throughout the Marvel comics. Not so much recently, but love
Mhm.
interests with Black Knight and God, am I wrong in thinking that Quicksilver? I think I am wrong, but she's been around for a really long time. Member of the Avengers, Heroes for Hire for a little while as well. So I thought Gemma Chan crushed it, dude.
Mhm.
And she is beautiful. Like some of those scenes, I thought the cinematography in this movie was amazing. Like in some of her scenes as her character, I was just like, it was stunning. I thought, but I thought she was great. Her powers, I feel like they barely did anything with them. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And like, there's so much. I think my biggest thing about this movie is they like scratched the surface. Like, I am very much excited for a future Eternals, seeing more because I feel like they just barely scratched the surface with these characters, and there's so much more they can do with them. And Cersei, I think, is going to be awesome moving forward.
Yeah, I think each character had to have enough screen time where you cared about the character, but now with the loss of, Ajax and Gilgamesh, and Sprite, now you have the next Eternals movie can incorporate and mature these characters and their abilities, and you'll see them more on screen. Like,
Right.
the first fight where Cersei and Sprite, and of course Kit Harrington's character are fighting the one deviant in like the town, and you're using all their abilities, and that was cool. And then of course the forest battle, and then the end battle. Like, yeah, you see a lot of a different variety of her abilities. That's what I'm
Mhm.
looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of like, that's something else you touched on, which is so great. And I know we're going to talk about this a little bit more when we get into the, like the end credit scenes, but the fact that there's so many more like eternal characters that didn't show up and, they're out there like hunting for more. I mean, like,
Mhm.
One of the big ones that didn't show up was Azurus. He's a big character in the comics as well. That didn't show up, but I'm sure we'll get at some point the Forgotten one as well.
Well, that's the thing with Eternals, right? There's probably what, like a good 20 to 30 quote unquote Eternals type of character, right?
Right.
There's different generations of.
Yeah.
It's not just the original, like what we saw today is not
Right.
just all from the Jack Kirby stuff. And it's, it's unfortunate if you were banking on, picking up a specific character because you like them, maybe, unfortunately, hey, they're gone now. So that book is not really worth that much.
Yeah.
If you're the type of person that was like hoarding a specific book. Yeah. Like if you were hoarding a specific book, if like one Eternal is in issue number 6 and there's no other first appearance in that, but you were like, oh yeah, I'm going to hold on to this for a while. But, I guess, yeah. And then last but not least, we'll get into, Kit Harrington. And, he's someone who it felt like a Chadwick Boseman in Civil War a little bit with the Black Panther introduction or Spider-Man,
right,
but without powers. Almost even, Black Widow in Iron Man 2. Like, you don't know who this character is. Even for the casual movie goer, you probably know him on Game of Thrones and some other stuff, but the fact that he kind of wants to say something to Cersei at the end of the movie, but cannot because she gets taken. And then we get the end credit scene. So, we'll pop into the 2 end credit scenes. We'll go with, his first. So he's kind of, he's got the box. He opens up the box. It's the ebony blade.
Mm-hmm.
And, he tries to touch it and it kind of generates to him, I guess, is the word to use. It kind of wants to.
Yeah. It starts like talking to him, kind of like,
and like
vibing with
to him.
Yeah.
So we don't know what's going to happen, but then we hear a voice in the background say, are you sure you want to do that, Mr. Whitman, right?
Right.
So, and I didn't know who it was. And, a lot of people out there still didn't know who it was. But of course, I had to Google it. And some people said that it's Blade.
Yeah. So
Mahershala Ali.
Man, so I'm with you. I didn't know who it was either. I remember like, whose voice is that? And then same shit. I Googled it, and when I saw it was Blade, I was like, wow, dude, that's fucking awesome. But like speaking about the Black Knight, like I love the Black Knight. I've always loved that character. Obviously, a ton of like Arthurian legend connections with him. Ebony Blade, Excalibur, been around for a long time. Hasn't been used too much recently. But I will tell you, they kind of revamped the Ebony Blade story with Null and Absolute Carnage and all that. Like, Null has a connection to the Ebony Blade, and you find out a little bit more about it. But I was super excited to see Kit Harington get cast as the Black Knight. It's a great casting, great character, great actor. I was a little bummed in the movie, to be honest with you, how much of like not Black Knight he was. He was just kind of Dane Whitman. And he kind of was used as, I was like, okay, enough with the jokes. Like, I feel that too. I'm with you with that a lot of times where I'm like, I don't need all this humor sometimes, like.
Too much of the content asking Cersei to like do something to him, like like Doctor Strange or turn him.
Yeah, are you a wizard and all that? Yeah.
Like,
and it makes him likable. I get it. Like it's showing you that he's a good person. He's a fun guy. Like he's likable. He's safe. You know what I mean? But I would have liked to seen a little bit more of like him being a badass too. Like even without his sword, kind of like fighting it up, with the deviants or something. But maybe that also makes sense as well. Like if you're a normal human, you're going to be like, yo, there's a big ass deviant there. I'm running away. Like it's probably the safer choice. But yeah, dude, in the Blade stuff, like then I was racking my brain, like, what's a Blade connection with the Black Knight? I don't know of any.
I couldn't figure that out either.
I don't really feel like they've ever necessarily even interacted. Like, I'm probably wrong in that, but as far as I know, there's no Blade Black Knight interaction. Anyone does know, please send us an email to the ComicCom podcast at gmail.com and let me know, because I would love to check out those issues.
Yeah, like he's not like a Midnight Suns type of character.
Right.
And didn't we get confirmation that Blade's showing up in Moon Knight?
I don't know if to be honest, I'm not sure if there is a confirmation on that, but it's rumored that he will.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
that was really cool, and it was even cooler when you find out later. When I found out later who it was, I was like, "What? That was Blade? That's awesome, dude. That's so cool."
So that's the second end credit scene, and of course, the first end credit scene we have the arrival of Eros, Star Fox, Mr. Thanos' brother, and a character that I wish I would have spec'd on a very long time ago, because Mikey Sutton, or I think at the time, the Black Knight told us about the long-term spec, and we talked about all these space characters that were going to be coming to the MCU, and Pip the Troll was on there, and I looked over that book tons of times, didn't care, and the movie came out this weekend, and them copies is drying up fast and selling for good money. So
yeah, I mean, to be honest, like specking on the first appearance of Star Fox is Iron Man 55, so that's Thanos' first appearance, right? So good luck on getting that. Even when the MCU started, that book was already like pretty high. It's kind of dropped now. You can probably pretty affordable at this point. But yeah, Pip the Troll was really cool. I honestly, I was a little I was shocked when Star Fox showed up, because there's a lot connected to Star Fox. I mean, obviously you can't move forward and not tackle the fact that he's Thanos' brother, right? In the MCU, Thanos has been like the biggest threat that the MCU's had. So to not speak on Thanos is tricky. The other thing, which a lot of people don't know, is Star Fox, like some of his storylines are controversial. Like he was on trial for sexual assault in the comics for a very long time, and he was defended by Jennifer Walters, She-Hulk, for a long time. So like he has a womanizer aspect to him, where he was like going around and sleeping with all these women and committing sexual assault on people in the galaxy. And it was a little dicey. So in this day and age, to tackle a guy like that. But
how is he? So it's confusing, because he is an Eternal, right?
Right.
But how is he? Huh?
So yeah, so he's second, like I think it's second or third generation Eternal. So it's in the comics, what you had was like the Eternals that we saw in the movies, right? And then you had a group of Eternals went off into space and settled on Titan, the second moon of Saturn, right? And that was where Eros and his father Mentor and Thanos are from. And so in the comics, Thanos is actually kind of like a deviant and Eternals hybrid. I'm not sure how. Like, I don't really know where the deviant blood came from. I'm not super savvy on that, but that's kind of their thing. So they are Eternals that, had like gone and done their own thing, whereas the Eternals that we saw in the movie stayed on Earth and kind of like, operated there.
And then I guess like he's obviously, with being the brother of Thanos, it's more of like the sister, like Gamora and Nebula thing, right? It's kind of like
real brother.
Oh,
birth
real brother. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
birth brother.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, so
they have the same parents.
mother.
Same,
they have the same
mother
parents?
and father. Yeah.
Okay. All
right. I'm pretty sure. God, they've retconned it. I could be wrong, but I'm almost positive that they have the same parents.
Okay. So yeah, interesting enough. I guess let's just we'll just do our final takeaways, because we want to keep this one short.
Right.
We're already pushing about 28 minutes. We don't want this to be a full episode, but I guess my final score on this, I'd give it like a 7 out of 10, 7.5 out of 10 if you want to go CGC route. Takeaways that I have to look forward to. I think this is a great introduction, again, to the space world, and we've seen it a little bit at the end of, what was it? I think it's Captain Marvel with Sword, right? If I'm not mistaken, or no, where do we see Sword? WandaVision. So we've seen that, but like when we saw the second Amazing Spider-Man, No Way Home, we saw the Samuel L. Jackson like aboard the ship.
Oh, the Skrulls,
yeah, with that. So, I think this is pushing into the space. I think the introduction of the Celestials is going to hopefully pave the way for Galactus and the Fantastic Four, right? Like that's kind of the next wave of what, they say it's coming. Kevin Feige said they're coming. So, because isn't the same thing, isn't Galactus a Celestial, if I'm not mistaken, like in a retcon way? Because he's like, he's the world eater. So
he's got a connection. I'm not sure if he's actually considered like a celestial. Maybe we might get murdered on this for not knowing this. To
And
be
maybe I
honest,
shouldn't have brought that up. Again, this is my not knowledge of the Marvel universe to a T, but
yeah, no, I don't believe he's not a celestial,
Okay.
but he's one of these like you know, entities in the cosmic entities out there in space. But you're right, though. I mean, you see the Celestials. It stands to reason now. It makes more sense to see Galactus now than it did like in Fantastic Four 2 when he showed up, right?
Yeah.
The old school one.
Yeah. So that's kind of my takeaways and grade. What about you?
So I think I'm going to go a little higher, man. I'm probably going to go about an 8.5.
Okay.
I didn't have high hopes for this movie. I kind of went in very much not like low hopes, just kind of like, let's see what happens. I wasn't really like excited for it. And I really, really enjoyed it. You know, I know some people are complaining about the length and time of the movie, but I thought it moved great. I thought the pacing was done well. I know that was something that the Rotten Tomatoes stuff as well. They're saying that the director didn't pace it correctly and stuff. But I mean, you had 8 characters that you had to give time to, dude. I thought she nailed it. I thought it was great. Like anything more or less would have been, you know, an issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I very much enjoyed it. I'm excited to see where it goes. I think it opens up a lot of possibilities for the Marvel universe as well. I think if a disappointment I have is a lot of people expect that we would see something in here that would lead towards mutants, right?
Really?
A lot of people thought like, hey, I think the Eternals, maybe something's going to happen in the Eternals that really opens up the mutant stuff.
Is that every show? Like, I
yeah,
feel like
right. Everyone's hoping that. Yeah,
like WandaVision, we thought that, and then or people thought that, and we didn't think that. WandaVision, then with Falcon Winter Soldier, people were like, "Oh, Omega Red showing up. Oh, it's a mutant.
right.
No, that's how it's going to be brought in." And then it's like Loki, and then we're going to see it in a different Earth or a different time continuum.
I think it was the idea of like this emergence, possibly, and like the release of like the stones and leftover from like Thanos. The energy might have created mutants. You know, who knows? But I'm glad it didn't. It would have convoluted the movie, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I very, very, very much enjoyed it. I really liked it.
Awesome. So that's our review of Eternals. I think we like doing these a little bit better than throwing them into our normal podcast, giving everybody a little, you know, bonus content here and there. So if you haven't checked out the latest episode 43, it's up and running. And then we will be doing episode 44 this upcoming week. So we appreciate all of our listeners, followers, and supporters for the ComicCom podcast. Nemesis Prime, I'm out of here. Zach.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Make sure you check out the Eternals if you have not seen it. Hopefully, you'll still see it since we spoiled it completely.
All right, everybody. Yeah. Enjoy. Peace out.
Yeah.